Chapter 6 is living emotional chastity and the obstacles to that. What inhibits living emotional chastity? Before we get into that, we're going to go back very briefly to go over chapter 5, what love is not. Remember, we were outlining what love is not so that we can identify the counterfeits of what we don't want so that we can choose what we want in authentic love. That's chapter 5. Chapter 6 are the obstacles. We're going to talk first about human frailty as the number one obstacle to living emotional chastity. Love, we can pretty much agree on, is the most important human experience. It's what fulfills us. It's what gives us happiness. But we also know that love is not easy. It takes a giving and taking. It's not effortless. It takes an investment. Deep down, we kind of know that something's not right with us because that struggle to respond to the other as they deserve. Yet 2,000 years of tradition, both on the Jewish and Christian side, calls it iniquity, this tendency of the human person towards kind of a self-centeredness. Sin, essentially, is what it is. It's an offense against reason, against truth, against right conscience. It's a failure in genuine love for others and for God. That's what it is. And God created us free, and you can't love unless you're free to love. So essentially it's about how we might use our freedom or misuse our freedom in love that human frailty is centered on. The second obstacle is this dehumanizing culture. We call it a secular culture, which means worldly or irreligious. And it's essentially that. It dehumanizes. It takes the dignity and the sacredness of the human person and it materializes it. We call it the materializing of love, to see another person as just one more thing to use and discard. And how much pain and suffering is caused when we interact with one another in this capacity, the materializing of love. Another aspect of this dehumanization, besides the materialization of love, is what we call the cycle of using. Both our human frailty and this tendency to materialize things in the culture create a cycle of using within human relationships. It looks like this. The cycle begins with a strong tendency to seek an emotion, a certain emotional experience, but once that experience is reached and loses its luster, the cycle starts again. Of course, this is different in men and women. One key to escaping or snapping ourselves out of this cycle is to think about when we were used or when we saw another friend or someone close to us used, and the pain of that tends us to wake us up to the possible falling into the dangers of this cycle in our own life. Another aspect of this dehumanizing culture is the lie of absolute freedom. We know that freedom today is everything. And yet where there is false freedom, there is false love. Freedom today is seen as an absolute value. Leaving our options open is an imperative. Got to have your freedom to choose almost to the last second before making that choice, right? Every choice comes, though, we know, with sacrifice. Think about marriage. A lot of tendency to vent about how marriage, you lose all your freedom once you commit to another person, but we do win in marriage. You may lose certain freedoms, but you gain a whole series of other freedoms and other graces and blessings in marriage that make you a better person. The third obstacle of emotional chastity is the reality of evil. Let's define evil. Evil is the active force that perverts the good in the world and perverts others. It's the absence of good. Evil forces, I think we can see all around us, are against the good of the human person and ultimately against God, the Creator. Marriage and family are at the center of this battle between good and evil. Why? Because marriage and family is precisely where we learn to love, and love in that total gift of self to the other. It's our training ground, those relationships. And so fundamental to combating evil over good. Finally, in our study circle, I really want you to hone in, if you might, take special attention regarding this concept of freedom in the world, this lie that we can fall into. Because I believe if we nail what true freedom is for ourselves and in our relationships, we will then be able to fully embrace the great gift that authentic love is in our life. Thank you.